everyone, and thanks for joining me for another podcast. My next guest, I was extremely excited to get to come on. She's very knowledgeable in nutrition, and fitness plays a big part of my life, and it should play a big part in everybody's life. But what I really respect about her is that she practices what she preaches. That means she won't preach it until she's actually tried it herself. And that's something that I admire very much, especially in fitness, a world full of charlatans. I introduce to you guys the very humble and very knowledgeable Fallon Mercedes. All right, so we're live. All right, Fallon, thank you so much for coming back again. This is actually a problem that I have to figure out because this is the third time that I've had to do a second podcast with a guest because of internet problems.
No problem. I think it was actually my fault, but you know what I'm doing right now? I am recording on my end too, on my other laptop. So therefore, we'll be double good. We have multiple pieces covered.
That's a good idea. I should have done that myself, but I guess it's good on my end. It didn't get yours. But anyways, thanks for coming on. We had a fantastic conversation.
It was really good.
Yeah, so we're gonna try to double that up and stick to it as close as possible. So the reason I really wanted you on the podcast, Fallon, is because in the age of COVID, I think a percentage of the people have woken up to the fact that they have to take care of themselves. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of the people also do not know how to do that. And they just think it's about working out and killing themselves in the gym and stuff. Mm-hmm. And this is where you come in. So what is it that you specialize in, Fallon?
So I've been a certified personal trainer, health coach for many, many years now, but recently I got certified as a nutritionist and then an herbalist. So what I realized is that, like you said, you can work out, but if you're not introducing the proper foods and nutrients and vitamins and supplementation, you're not going to see the results that you need to see. And especially right now during COVID, we're not going outside as much as we should be. And it's about to be cold out. So, you need to be supplementing with vitamin D. You should be taking a good multivitamin. You should be taking, depending on what your body needs, you have to kind of look at it and see, okay, what areas do I need help in? I think for everybody, like elderberry is great just for immune support. You should be getting good sleep. If you're not, there's supplementation for that. But yeah, you need to be eating, less fried food, less refined carbs, more vegetables, more fruits. And just what I've learned through my own education and experience with my own health issues is that food is truly medicine. So.
Yeah. So is there, an explanation why just working out won't get you to achieve your goals? Why is supplementation so important?
Yeah, I think, when you look at the body, it's more than just physical. You have mind, body, soul connection, your organs have functions. So you can build all the muscle you want. And that's great because you'll probably be burning a lot of body fat, which that's great. But if your organs aren't functioning properly, and you probably know this, Jose, because you're big into fitness, and a lot of bodybuilders, like old school bodybuilders, now that they're getting older, they're in their 60s and 70s. Like look at Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yep. He just had a heart transplant.
Really? I didn't even know that.
Yeah. And there's another one my husband follows. He always swears. He's always cursing. He's funny.
Is it Ronnie Coleman? It's not Ronnie Coleman.
Ronnie Coleman also has health issues, but there's another one. I forget his name, but he just had a heart transplant as well. So,
now, what do you think that is?
It's because all they were doing was hitting the gym and eating a bunch of steaks.
Yeah.
And, I think steroids plays into it too, but that's a whole nother conversation. But if you're not really, giving your body a good supplementation routine and good nutrition, it's going to burn out. And now Arnold Schwarzenegger, in the last couple of years, he became vegan. Now he sees you don't need so much protein to build muscle, but now it's too late. He had a couple heart attacks, and this last one, he had to have a heart transplant.
Wow, a life-changing experience. Yeah, those guys were definitely about, eat a bunch of calories and go lift a bunch of heavy weight. That's what it's about.
And I know I've had a couple, because I have my own podcast too, and I've interviewed a lot of people who are more into like the naturopathic side of medicine, and they often will compare your body to like a sports car. They'll say, if you have a sports car, say you have a Ferrari, you're
Yep.
not just gonna beat it up, or a race car. What do they do after a race? And even during the race, there's multiple stops, pit stops, where they change the tires, they put oil change, they put the best of the best in the car so it could function at its best. And that's how we need to start thinking about our body, is we need to take care of it on all levels, mentally, spiritually, physically, internally, so that it can, do and perform at an optimal level. So I don't know if you've heard of blue zone countries.
I have not. No, what's that?
So blue zone countries, those are the countries that have the healthiest and longest living populations in the world.
Okay.
So one of those places is in Japan, and it's a small village, and they live to about 118, 120, give or take, years old. And the reason is because they eat minimal processed foods. They, get enough sunlight, they exercise, they stress little, but they're eating tons of fiber, they're eating tons of vegetables and fruits. So I think, we need to somehow get back to that. And I know we have, all the technology in the world, but that's not going to help us. It seems like we're going backwards. Here in America,
Yeah.
we are the richest, we are like, advanced, but we are also the unhealthiest, one of the
Yeah.
unhealthiest countries. So I think that should be a wake-up call for us all, especially after the coronavirus.
Yeah, I guess, and there may not be an answer to this, is more of what's your opinion on this, but how does a normal American like you and I function in, the food industry and the capitalism that's behind it and the power that's behind, these processed foods and having a McDonald's on every single corner?
Mm-hmm.
How would you combat that?
So getting back to the blue zones, what's
Yep.
interesting is that in Japan, they never had like colon cancer or uterine or breast cancers or prostate cancers until the 1980s, I believe, 1990s.
Okay.
And scientists were like, okay, that doesn't make sense. They have some of the largest blue zone populations in Japan. Now, why are some areas all of a sudden getting these certain type of cancers, which are very similar to the cancers that strike our country here in America? And that's
Yeah.
because they introduced westernized foods and fast food restaurants. So McDonald's and Burger King. So now they're eating a lot of processed meats. And now that's why they're starting to see higher rates of certain diseases that they never had before.
That is
So,
extremely interesting. Yeah.
yeah. So, you know, being here and everything is fast and convenient, there's only so long that your body can keep up with it. So, I'm Dominican, and my great grandmother lived to 104 years old, right?
Okay. Wow.
And you don't, in my family and her siblings, like, you didn't see diabetes, you didn't see a lot of the cancers. But second generation, first generations that come here, now we're starting to see those diseases that we didn't have in our family back in DR. So
Yeah.
that just shows you even just one generation coming to America, and this is very common for other other backgrounds, you know, that come here, that migrate here.
Yeah.
First generation, they're getting diseases that their families have never saw before. And again, it's because of the type of food that we have here. So I think, you know, you really got to make sure that you're getting back to as natural as you can. I think the first thing is you got to cook from home. You know, my first
Yeah.
job, 14 years old, was working at McDonald's and Dunkin' Donuts. And I can tell you, the way they cook food, and I'm pretty sure it's even worse now. You can't consume that every day. You just
No.
can't. It's your body just can't continue to break it down. When you're a teenager, you know, you have a high metabolism and, you know, you're pretty healthy, but usually, you know, once you hit late 20s, 30s, your body starts breaking down, and all that waste that you put into your system starts to show up through your health.
Yeah, I see that. Now, when you say, I know processed foods is a thing, and you brought up processed meats, is there a real difference between processed meats and, say, like pure grass-fed beef, or do they just fall in the same area where it's like the animal is already
Mm-hmm.
kind of tainted, so the meat's already tainted regardless where you get it? Where do you stand on that?
So I'll never forget, I was sitting next to a surgeon on an airplane, and it was a long flight. I think I was coming back from Cali when I lived over there back to Mass. And I just picked his brain for the 4.5, 5 hours. That's how long it was. And he was so nice because he let me. But one of the things that stuck out to me that he told me was that the highest grade of antibiotics that he has access to as a surgeon, farmers have access to give animals.
Huh.
So the problem with especially meat that is not organic is that there's so many hormones, there's so many antibiotics, there's so much stuff, and of course they feed them soy and corn
Yeah.
and things that are not good for them, that they're not supposed to be eating, and then we're eating, which isn't good for us. A lot of GMO, a lot of it's just, yeah, it's not healthy overall, but especially the hormones and the antibiotics that they put in them, it
Okay.
really wreaks havoc. Anything that you consume or an animal consumes and then you consume, it's going to go into your body as well. You know, like, yeah, there's a lot of protein in meat, but there's a lot of other things in those animals. And then not to mention, you know, they have a lot of fat in them, and that, you know, leads to high cholesterol and heart disease and other things when we consume those animals. So for
Right.
organic food, I will say I do believe it's better, just
Okay.
because, you know, you're not getting all those antibiotics, you're not getting all those hormones. However, technically in the US, an animal can be classified as organic as long as when they're a baby, like a calf or you know,
Yep.
a little animal, as long as they're a baby and they're being grass fed. But once they hit adulthood for that animal, they can eat anything and still be classified as organic.
Oh, jeez.
So
It's a
when you're
loophole.
spending $5, $10 more on that piece of meat because you're like, you know what, this is organic, this is healthy,
Yeah.
you really don't know how healthy that animal is. And I'll tell you, even with dairy. So I don't know if you know this, but just like humans, in order to produce milk, a female needs to be pregnant. So cows can only give milk when they're pregnant. So what they do with these female cows is they artificially inseminate them and keep them pregnant all of their lives. So they're never not pregnant in order
Wow.
to produce milk. So when a woman is pregnant, you have higher hormone levels. You have more prolactin to produce more milk and other hormones. Now, that, and then on top of that, they're putting antibiotics and steroids and other
Of course.
things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So not only is it like horrible to think, dang, this poor cow is always pregnant. Like, how horrible
Yeah.
does
Yeah.
that feel?
I've actually never thought of that, and that's insane to think about.
Yeah. But then when you're drinking, the milk or eating the cheese,
Yeah.
you are getting all those hormones. So one thing about me, I do health coaching. Recently, the last 2 years, I started health coaching kids because there's been such an
Interesting.
epidemic with child obesity and diabetes in children, which was
Yeah.
a never heard of thing. Type 2 onset diabetes was considered only for adults, but as of recent, now children are getting diabetes.
Okay.
So I started coaching kids, and what I realized is that girls are starting to get their periods so early. The average girl in the world, the age to get her period is between 14 and 17. In the
Okay.
US, girls are getting their periods as young as, I've even had girls get their period at 8 years old.
Really?
And the first thing, and doctors are starting to even understand this and starting to recommend this,
Yeah.
telling the parents to get them off the dairy. Because what happens as a female, the longer a female is exposed to higher level of hormones, especially estrogen in her lifetime, her
Yeah.
chances of getting estrogen related cancers go up tenfold. So the
Okay.
younger you are and you're starting to, develop as a woman and break out and then get your period, you are going to have a higher chance of, when you get older, having certain or getting certain cancers. So they're really suggesting, cut out the dairy. And that's one thing that I'm telling all my clients and even my family members, the girls, in my family. My niece, she's 9 years old, and she got her period, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, that's not
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Now, in the span, in this transition from 14 to 17 down to 8 or 9 years old, in the span of what time did that start to happen?
I don't know, because I just started
Okay.
working with children in the last 2 years, and I just started researching.
Yeah.
But I would assume in just like the last like 5 or 10 years. I mean, I've
Okay.
heard some girls when I was younger getting their periods earlier than normal, but now
Yeah.
it's becoming so common. It's
Yeah.
really becoming common for girls to be getting their period in second and third grade.
Now that you know of, is
Grade
this
grade.
affecting boys? I'm sorry.
For boys,
Yeah.
I don't know, just because they don't get their menstrual cycles, but I
Okay.
imagine if they're consuming the same foods as girls, I imagine so. But what I do know is that, boys and girls, also children, they're getting higher rates of diabetes, like I was saying earlier, and insulin resistance, which is what you get usually before you get diabetes.
Okay. Can you explain what insulin resistance?
So insulin resistance is when your kidneys can't keep up with all of, I guess, the glucose that's coming in.
Okay.
So glucose is basically sugar. So whenever you eat any form of sugar or you eat carbs, and carbs, when you eat carbs, it turns into sugar in the body. So then what happens is that your liver starts excreting like more hormones trying to compensate, and then you have a bunch of insulin kind of floating in your system, but it's not being it's not being utilized. It's not being
Okay.
broken down.
Wow. Okay. And that makes you diabetic because why is that? Why does that become a problem? Do you know?
Well, what I'm learning now is that it's, yes, the sugar, you shouldn't be consuming tons of sugar, and we do every day. Like,
Yeah.
it's especially the kids, they're going to McDonald's and consuming supersized meals with supersized high C juices or Cokes or,
Yeah.
But what
Of
I'm
course.
learning now, it's when you're eating animal proteins. So when you're eating meats, especially those that have a lot of fat or the dairy, it's starting to clog your arteries. And once your arteries get clogged, it's harder for insulin and glucose to pass through and then be broken down.
Okay.
So then it's kind of staying in your system and it's not being broken down. So I think it's the combination of both, because what I've seen, people who take out animal proteins but still have moderate levels of, sugars, they're able to reverse their diabetes or insulin resistant.
Okay. So improve otherwise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I'm gonna guess. I'm gonna ask you, what is the cure then? What is it that somebody would do to stop, eating this way? And I know you talked to me during the last recording that we were doing about you making the change to being vegan yourself. Is being vegan, in your opinion, the answer to fixing all these problems?
I've only been vegan for 3 months now,
Okay.
but I'll tell you, just from my own, um, you know, health issues, that was the answer for me. So I was having a bunch of hormonal issues and I wasn't getting pregnant, and I'm a newlywed and I'm healthy. I work out, I'm fit with Fallon, like
Yeah.
I should be, the epitome of, taking care of yourself. And I mean, I try. I did the keto diet for years, and at first I saw great results. I lost weight and a lot of my clients, but then I started noticing, my cholesterol started going up and I started having high levels of cholesterol. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. I'm not eating steaks. Like, I'm
Yeah.
eating like fish and chicken and turkey, and those are all like, healthier, less fattier meats.
Yes.
And I'm eating tons of, vegetables, and I wouldn't even touch carbs, like not even really like good carbs, never mind processed ones. So I was like,
Yeah.
this doesn't make sense. Then I started having a lot of period problems. I did on keto. You are supposed to eat, high fat, high protein, low sugar, low or no carbs. So
Yeah.
I was doing a lot of Greek yogurts. I was doing a lot of, I love cheese sticks. Like, that was my thing. So yeah, I love bacon, like, you can have fats. So that was like,
Yeah.
yeah, as long as I don't eat a bunch of sugar and carbs, I'm good. So I started to notice my menstrual cycles were like so heavy, and I couldn't keep off the weight. So I would go crazy working out 2-3 times a day, counting every calorie, and the weight would just creep back. I would lose 20, gain 20, lose 20, gain 30. I'm like, it's like every 3-4 months, I'm either in the losing or gaining. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Then I wasn't getting
Yeah.
pregnant. And I'm like, something's up. And I went to my primary care physician. I told her, hey, my menstrual cycle is like crazy heavy. Every month I'm getting depressed, I'm getting irritable, I'm like in pain, like it's hard for me to even work out. I'm so heavy, like this is insane. I think, maybe my hormones are off. And she was just like, I'm not going to send you to a specialist just because you're healthy. You're not obese. And I wasn't, like
Yeah.
150, 60 pounds. It's not obese,
No.
and she's just like, just wait a year. You need to try to get pregnant for a full year before I send you to a specialist. So I found this company called letsgetchecked.com, and you can take tons of different tests at home. And one of the tests that I ordered was a hormone test. And I got the results, and they have a doctor that can call you and go over them with you. And he was like, yeah, your hormones are off balance. Like, your progesterone is very low, your estrogen's high. There was a couple other things, but he was like, yeah, you need to see a specialist. So I called my doctor, was upset. I'm like, look, here are my results. Give me my referral. So I went to a fertility specialist. And she told me first thing and was like, just because a lot of women have menstrual, issues, that doesn't mean that that's okay. Just because it's normal doesn't mean it's healthy.
Right.
So she was like, she should have had you see me a while ago. So come to find out, after they checked me, they found a big fibroid. Now, fibroids can, grow because of a lot of things, too much estrogen, issues, with your thyroid, again, which is a hormone. So I had surgery, got the fibroid removed. And some fibroids don't need to be removed, but mine specifically was blocking me from getting pregnant.
I see.
So I got it removed, and she, was like, oh, okay, you can start trying now. That should be it. Other than that, you're healthy, So my periods did get better after that. However, she called me back a couple of weeks later and was like, we tested your fibroid. It's something routine that we do just in case yours came back as a precursor for cancer, meaning
Oh God.
that it could turn into uterine cancer. When you have those type of cells, they later
Yeah.
can turn into cancer. So I was just
Wow.
like, what is going on? Like,
Yeah. You don't want that phone call.
I was so taken back. And, she was like, yeah, a certain percentage could be hereditary, which it's true. Cancer, I think it's like, at 15-25% can be hereditary.
Okay.
But I started really diving in and reading a bunch of books. I took a nutrition and cancer class online from 3 doctors. And I read this one specific book, and it was like just mind blowing. And it was this one scientist who grew up on a farm, loved eating meat and dairy. He was a farm boy. And
Yeah.
he went to the Philippines to help figure out why the kids in the Philippines, there was a rise in children getting a certain type of cancer. And most cancers is like an adult thing. It's not until you're like 40s, 50s, or older. So he went over there, and what he realized was that they were eating a lot of animal-based proteins. So what he did was he took rats, and they were all exposed to a carcinogen, which can cause cancer, and he started feeding them animal proteins. Well, he fed one group animal protein and the other one no animal protein, a vegetable-based diet. And what he
Okay.
found is that the ones that were eating animal protein that were exposed to the carcinogens grew cancer. So then he was like, oh my goodness, maybe this is it. So then he was like, let me reverse it, because in his mind, and the way I think we were all kind of brought up to think is, you need protein to survive. So he's like, this doesn't make sense. I thought you had to have protein. Like, protein is meat, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he reversed it. He said, let me lower the protein, animal protein, and start giving them, protein through vegetables. So 2 cups of broccoli is equivalent to a 6-ounce steak in terms of the protein amount. So he was like, I'm going to,
Really?
yeah. So,
Huh.
so when people say as a vegan, like, where do you get your protein? That's actually the wrong question you should be asking. It's where do you get your fiber? Because we get plenty of protein, but we'll talk about that a little later.
Okay.
So he reversed it and he started giving them, animal protein, but through vegetables, and the cancer went away. And then he did it to the other
Wow.
group of rats, the ones that had no cancer that were eating vegetables, and then reversed it and started feeding them a bunch of animal protein, specifically casein, which is in a lot of protein powders and
It is. Yep.
dairy, and they grew cancer. So he was like, this is it. And as a farm boy who loved meat and steak and dairy, he said from that moment on, he went cold turkey. And then he also went to the blue zones, and one of them being the centenarians, they're called, they're in Japan, the people that I were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
Okinawans. And he studied there for a while, and he noticed the same thing. They weren't eating any protein, very little fish, maybe half of a palm of their hand a week, but it was mostly vegetables and fiber and, lots of exercise and less stress. But so I say all that to say, once I learned that, cold turkey, done. I was like, I am vegan.
Yeah.
And luckily for me, my husband did it with me to make it much easier. And I also started doing high doses of vitamin C through IV, just because the body can't, through pill form, it will just go through the digestive tract. So I started doing it through IV, and vitamin C high dose, it's an antioxidant. So any free radicals in the body, any cells that are, acting
Yeah.
crazy, it's going to put them in check and make them healthy and normal again.
Wow. How often would you get this IV?
Maybe once a month, every 4 or 6 weeks. So I've only got a couple now because it's been 3 months. And then after 3 months of doing that, and they also gave me progesterone because my progesterone was really low. So a hormone to once you up your progesterone, it helps lower your estrogen. So between those 3 things, I had a biopsy this past week, and I no longer have the precursor for the uterine cancer.
Oh, awesome. Congratulations.
So that was just like, I was just like, and I think here's my thought. Does everybody need to be a vegan? No, because everybody doesn't have the genetic makeup. There's going to be some diseases and some, illnesses that no matter how you treat your body, like crap, you're never gonna see. Just like you see people who smoke all their lives and never get lung cancer. And then my next door neighbor, she never smoked in her life, but she worked in a factory that had, certain smoke or toxins coming out, and she got lung cancer. And it's like, you got to be kidding me,
That'll do it.
So does everybody have to be a vegan? No, but if you want to live healthier, if you want to, try to live the healthiest and not play Russian roulette with your health, I do believe a vegan diet is a great way to go. Is it perfect? It may not be. I know for me, I do vitamin B12 supplements just because you mostly get it from animal protein. But here's the kicker. The only reason why you get it from animal protein is because the farmers inject it into the animals.
Ugh, yeah.
So it's
That's a problem.
So that can be an excuse for people saying, well, I need my meat because of certain things. Back in the day, vegans and animal eaters could get naturally from animals or from the soil, from the vegetables and fruits that they could get it from the soil. But now the soil is so depleted because of all the Roundup and all the pesticides that they're putting in the soil to kill, certain bacteria. And that's where the B12 comes. It comes from certain bacterias.
And what would you say to anybody who's worried about losing performance if they were to go on to a vegan diet?
I would say watch Game Changers.
What's that?
Oh, you haven't watched it? Okay.
No, you were ready for that though.
No, I'm telling you, it was my husband, when he watched that, he was like, oh yeah, it's on. It's all
Yeah.
these athletes who like Olympic gold winners, like there was a football team that was just on there. I don't know, I don't watch football, but they were on, were on
Gotcha.
the game changers, and one of them went vegan, and then his wife is a chef, so she started cooking for the whole team, and all of their performances started going up, and then
Really?
they ended up winning the Super Bowl, and they're all like, but they tested all these athletes, and even it was pretty cool because they had scientists in there and they were taking young athletes and they were saying, you know, we're going to test you and we're going to show you not just on physical performance, how you're going to have so much more energy, so much more endurance, so much better muscle recovery, but we're going to show you how it can also affect your sex life.
Oh, interesting.
So what they did was they fed all the boys, they were like young football players. They fed them all like meat burritos with like, you know, whatever meat they wanted in it. And
Yeah.
then they had them go to sleep. And then there was a way to test them at night, their, you know, stuff. And the next
Okay.
day, you know, it wasn't that great. So then the next day they had them eat bean burritos, and they did the same thing. They tested them, and they also took their blood so they could show them samples. So the cholesterol, the fat from the meat, stays in your blood for like over 8 hours. So if you're eating meat 3 to 4 times a day, your whole day, you're having all this extra fat in your system, you know, circulating in the blood, which affects your prostate levels and your testosterone levels.
Huh.
So once they learn that, you know, they say, you know, like when you go on a date, like you have a wife, you want to go on a date and you want to be sexy and, you know, have a good night with her. You're thinking, let me eat a big steak. No,
Sure.
you want to
No.
have some cauliflower, some Brussels sprouts, a bean burrito. Trust me.
The unmanliest thing ever. That's what I'm supposed to pay.
So I highly suggest watching Game Changers. It is
Okay.
so good, and it's fun too because it's naturally when I thought of vegan. So I lived in LA for 8 years or 9 years, a while.
Okay.
And that was the first time I ever heard about or really met vegans. And I was like, what kind of hippie hug treeing, like, and no offense, like it's more of like, you know, a Caucasian thing.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm actually half white, but I'm like, I'm not that, like, I'm free spirited, but not to that type of level. And I would meet so many different type of vegans the longer I lived there. And I'm like, oh, I interviewed, I had a podcast called Fit Club on AfterBuzz TV.
Okay.
And I had, do you know who John Sally is?
Basketball player?
Yeah.
Basketball great? Yeah, yeah, he's awesome.
So
Well, I never met him, but yeah.
yeah, so he came on and I interviewed him, you know, about health and fitness. And he's
It's awesome.
yeah, he's like evangelist. How do you say it? Evangelist?
Evangelical?
Yeah, no, but he's like that for veganism. Like,
Oh, I didn't know there was a word for that.
well, there isn't a word. I'm just saying he would
Okay.
preach veganism like it was like Christianity.
Wow. Oh, wow.
And I couldn't understand when I first met him. I was like, he is so obsessed with veganism. Like, but when I interviewed him and when I started learning about his family, you know, health history and how it improved him as a basketball player, improved his health, improved his health markers, I was like, oh, okay, I get it. But I just couldn't commit then. I wasn't ready. Like,
That's tough, yeah.
I was like, oh, that's cool, but I'm healthy over here. I'm good eating my meat. And
Yeah.
but I'm happy. I feel like all those people I met and the food I ate and the things that I learned, they kind of went into my back pocket as, you know, as things that I learned. And then, you know, researching more once I got diagnosed with my precursor, then I was able to put it all together and really make the leap for good.
Okay. So is your diet nowadays how much percentage is it supplemental and how much percentage is it actual food?
So I have my own supplement company. It's called
Yep.
Fitnutrition, and it's going to be, I guess, hopefully by December 12th, we'll be able to start our pre-orders. But I became a herbalist around the time or a little bit before I got diagnosed because I was trying to figure out my own menstrual cycle. I was like, what is going on? And I was like, the food, I'm like struggling. Like, I don't understand, why it's not working. I'm working out. So let me add some supplements, which it did help. But once I transitioned to vegan and the
Yep.
supplements, now I'm like really seeing the full results. But I don't know how to give a percentage to
Yeah.
supplements because I supplement every day. It's one of the first things I do when I wake up. And the reason why I supplement, one, because even though I'm eating really good, and you should try to get all your vitamins and nutrients from food, you still can't get everything you need from food alone. Just because, like I was saying, we don't have the same soil or food systems that we had 100 years ago. They're just not as natural. So we're not getting as much of the nutrients. So a typical apple spends almost a year either on a truck crossing the country. So like, I try to buy organic. Sometimes I don't, but you'll notice. And it's funny because I recently got my mom and dad to eat healthier, and they're shopping at Trader Joe's. And
Nice.
she was like, oh my God, the fruit is amazing. Like, I've never tasted fruit so good, because she wasn't eating organic before. And she was
Yeah.
like, but damn it, I hate how quick it spoils. And it's true, because like I'll go to Kroger's, that's the supermarket down the street from me down here in Atlanta, and
Okay.
I'll tell you, I'll buy an apple, that thing will last for over a month. Not even turn. I'll go to Trader Joe's like her, and it's like a week later, you're like, so you really got to consume what you're buying. But
Is that because of preservatives?
it's so many things. It's
Okay.
especially if it's not organic, it's the preservatives, it's the different things that they're putting in the soil, and even like, this may sound gross, but even some of the foods, like they'll even put things like a waxy type of material. It's edible. Should you be eating it? No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Around the apple so they can last longer.
Oh, yuck. So then we should definitely be supplementing because of the lack of quality of the stuff that's out there.
Yeah, of the nutrients. And then also, sometimes everybody's body is different, but sometimes your body, and even just different stages of your life, you need different things. So for instance, like a pregnant woman, she needs so much more folate just because the baby needs so much. So like, depending on, how old you are, what is going on in your life, if you're an athlete or you're in a high stress job, or you just need certain things. So let's get check.com. They have other types of testing, and you could do nutritional testing. You can see if there's anything that you're deficient in. And yeah, sometimes your body just doesn't break down certain things. So for me, I know I don't break down proteins as easily. So you can go on there and figure out, like if you're lower in this and higher in that, maybe for you, you might just need more vitamin D or
And
vitamin
you can
C.
find that out by doing these tests with what was that called?
Yeah, so it's just a nutritional deficiency test. And another test that you
Okay.
could do that's pretty cool, it's kind of gross. Like
Hit me.
if you struggle with constipation or irritable bowel syndrome, or just
Okay.
any gut issues, or even like immuno, like if you have any immune issues, like what am I trying to say? There's
Like
certain
autoimmune.
autoimmune diseases, and
Okay.
a lot of it comes from, just the gut, leaky gut. You can do stool tests,
Yep.
and the
Wow.
company is called Viome, and it's VIOME. And even for obese people. So this is pretty cool. So, and my husband makes fun of me all the time. He was like, I swear you were a doctor in a past lifetime. You are obsessed with health and fitness and statistics and like
We need this.
labs. But so they, so you send your stool off and they'll be able to look at the different bacteria in the stool and can tell you what you're missing. And so what they're finding out is a lot of obese people, they don't have a certain type of, I guess it's not a bug, but I guess it is, in their stool or in their gut, I should say, that helps them break down their food. So that's why they have trouble losing weight. It literally could just be a bacteria that they're missing. So, and how this was found was this one lady, she had to do a stool transfer. She had something going on and now they're doing that. So she took somebody else's stool to help her health, and it's really gross, but she ended up taking it. And then all of a sudden she ballooned up like 30 plus pounds and nothing changed. And it was because of the other person's gut. So now when they do stool transfers, or you could donate your stool to help people with different diseases and illnesses. Now, if you're obese or if you have insulin resistance or any metabolic syndromes, you can't donate your stool.
That is insane. Now, this is the same exact company that you ran your hormone test with?
No, so this is Viome. This is VIOME. So it's a similar company, but they just do your stool. They check for stuff, if you have gut issues or leaky gut.
And just to differentiate, the one that you did your hormone test was?
Yep. So it's letsgetchecked.com. And if it wasn't for them, I could have possibly gotten my uterus removed and never been a mom. Who knows what would have happened to me if it was, full-blown cancer. So I reached out to them and I was like, you guys literally like saved me. And definitely. I'm so appreciative. And, I would love to spread the word. So if you go to letsgetchecked.com, you could type in the code fitwithfallon5 for, I think it's like a 20% discount or 25%. And awesome. I suggest, if you don't have health insurance, this is a great way to still check yourself and, make sure you're okay. Even if you have health insurance with COVID going on, you may not want to go to the doctors. And they also have at-home COVID tests too.
Really? Mm-hmm. Okay. Super interesting. Now, this is a good time to talk about what we were talking about in the previous conversation. Now, with services like that exist, there was obviously a need somewhere. People were needing of services like this. With your experience, and we were talking about yesterday how the healthcare field, I guess, has dropped the ball on what it is that these companies are picking the ball up on.
Yeah.
What's your take on the healthcare system and how it's, in my opinion, not the same of what it was maybe 10, 15 years ago?
It is a for-profit business. And
yeah,
it's sad to say, but if they are truly getting people healthy, they're not going to be making money. So right. I feel that I interviewed a pharmacist on my podcast, and he calls him a pharmaceutical drug dealer turned herbal healer, because he felt for so many years that he was just handing out life sentences to medications. Once you're put on these statins or, blood pressure, diabetic pills, a lot of people never get off of them. It doesn't make them better. And oftentimes, what he was telling me, he worked for the FDA as well, it would cause other issues, other illnesses. And, the FDA would get sued a lot by these people. That's why when you watch a commercial, it says, Laurentin also causes diarrhea. Blah, blah,
Yeah, yeah.
you're like, what? Wait, hold on. Like a list of all these things. And you're like, well, if I have pain in my leg, I don't want all those other issues.
Yeah. I didn't ask for all this.
Yeah, I didn't ask for that diagnosis. So
Yeah.
the reason why they do that is because it really, again, some people are lucky, they might not have side effects, but some have side effects. And then certain pills together alone can cause, side effects. They interact with each other. And whenever you're having comorbidities, you got to take a pill for this and a pill for that and a pill for this. It's usually not like just one thing. So
Yeah.
what I feel with our health system is that medical schools are supported and get funding from the pharmaceutical companies. So all they learn, a lot of doctors learn, and mind you, they only get one semester, sometimes even one class out of all their years of studying of nutrition. So they really don't even know about nutrition. They know medicine. That's all they know. You got something wrong here. So with our healthcare system, it's great in the acute setting. If you get hit by a car and your leg gets cut off and you need morphine and surgery, you're not going to take herbs for that. You're
Yeah.
going to go to the emergency room. But in terms of, for instance, when I went to my oncologist after I found out I had this precursor, I had the precursor, my doctor was like, okay, we're going to do hormones and then, we'll see. And then if all else fails, we're going to take out your uterus. And I
Wow.
asked her, I was like, okay, well, what should I be doing? Guess you're going to give me the hormones, but like, do I need to change my diet? Do I need to like take certain supplements? And she was like, no, just take the hormones. There's no statistics that show. And I just looked at her like,
Yeah.
and I already did the research. So I'm like, but I will tell you this. I've also learned that it is considered, I guess, medical malpractice. Doctors can get sued if they recommend nutrition as an alternative or supplements. They can
Really?
lose their license.
For recommending supplementation?
For recommending supplementation without prescriptions for certain things. So, what I also feel is that my doctor isn't educated, but had she even known to, because think about it. If you have a person who may have cancer and they come to you and ask you, what should you do? What should I do? And you say, well, you could take this hormone, or you could go home and change your diet and live stress-free, get sun every day, make sure, you have a community and a spiritual practice, and you're good. And I go home and I do all those things because she said I could take that, do that and not take the hormones, and I die, or,
Yeah.
that's going to fall on her because
True.
her training is you get radiation, you get, chemotherapy, you get these pills or treatment or surgery. So I feel like, it's a lot of doctors, one, don't know because they're not taught that. And then if they do know and they work for a hospital, then they could lose their license. And that's why if you go to a natural doctor, if you go to a functional doctor, they have their own practices, but unfortunately, they don't accept medical insurance. So you need to pay out of pocket. And that's because that's how they can cover their own ass, is just having their own business.
I
But
gotcha.
medical insurance will not cover, those type of, you know, um,
Expenses. Yeah.
functional or yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, so, and I asked you this yesterday, but I want to hear it again or hear your version of it again, but can you be ethical and still be a doctor in a, big hospital?
So yesterday my answer was no.
Okay.
And then I thought about it a little more. I think it's tough. I think to be in a hospital, and I think that's why a lot of them who are woke and understand, they open up their own practices. But I
Okay.
thought about it more, and I interviewed a kidney doctor. His name is Dr. Schusterman, and he has a pretty good balance. He actually just put out a cookbook for patients who have kidney disease and how to cook to help, not exacerbate your kidney disease. But he also believes in, some of the traditional treatments that we have here. It's kind of a combination. So I think he has a good approach to it, and he's able to practice in the hospitals. But I think, kidneys are not the same as everything. I think,
Yeah.
you know, so for instance, with cancer, one thing I also was doing is I was juicing every morning.
Okay.
And there's this book called The Gerson Therapy. And Dr. Gerson, he was a doctor over in Europe many, many years ago. And he claimed to cure his cancer and hundreds of patients' cancer through certain types of juicing and coffee enemas and a couple other things. So he came to the US and he proposed a bill and to the government and said, I would love to come here and help. I have the cure for cancer. And it was about to go through, and then a bunch of lobbyists and pharmaceutical companies shut it down. So now his daughter lived on his legacy. Now there's Gerson therapy centers in Mexico, and I think at the very bottom of California, almost Mexico.
Okay.
And then, of course, in Europe as well. So they can't technically practice that stuff here just because they believe it's not ethical and the government and lobbyists stop it. So, yeah, they have to do it outside of the US.
Okay. Yeah. So, and it's actually shown to be proven to help their methods of.
I mean, yeah, I've seen and I've heard so many cases and so many people talk about, I don't know like if it helps everybody, but
Yeah.
it's the thing with some therapies for cancer, especially if you've had it, like sometimes cancer goes away and comes back and goes away and comes back. After you've done so many rounds of radiation and chemotherapy. So do you know what's in radiation?
It's probably not great, but I don't know.
So this is how they came up with radiation. So they put in World War One or World War Two, one of the world wars,
Yep.
they came up with tear gas. And they realized, like, wow, this can kill anything. So they took portions of the tear gas, and that's what they put in some of the cancer treatments.
Wow.
So that's why people get so sick. It's
Yeah.
because literally it's killing everything in them, not just the cancer cells. So that's the give or take. It's like, yeah, you can kill your cancer, but you
Right.
can also kill everything else in your body. So when you've gone through so many rounds of that, some people are just like, I'm going to die. Not just from the
Yeah.
cancer, but from this treatment. Let me try something else. So sometimes they'll turn to the Gerson therapy, but sometimes it's too late. They've
Yeah.
gone through, there's just so much cell death in their body that it's just too late. So they do suggest if you do the Gerson therapy route, if you can, whenever you find out, of your cancer, or even if you carry certain like BRCA genes, like the breast cancer genes or stuff like that,
Yeah.
try to incorporate those changes early, because sometimes the chemo and radiation just does so much damage.
Yeah, I used to a few years back. I used to push patients as a patient transport or
Mhm.
whatever, and I used to constantly have to bring patients from radiation oncology back to their rooms
Mhm.
and back to oncology, and it was probably the saddest trips that I've ever had to make.
Mm.
They've had to make multiple trips throughout the day because they have multiple doses of
Yep.
radiation.
Mhm.
And you're right. I mean, they look absolutely
It's
destroyed.
horrible. Yeah.
When they go back to their room, there is nothing that I can see that seems medical about it. I mean, it's just like I brought this person. They were just talking to me. They were smiling, and now all of a sudden don't even want to say a thing. I mean, they're knocked out. They have no energy. They can't speak to you, and they look like, I can't find the better word, but they look like shit. They
Yeah.
look like shit. They're just destroyed. So it is a terrible approach. I have no idea why that has. Well, maybe I don't follow that field, but I don't know why that has not been improved.
Yeah.
But I agree with you
Is that
that
it makes so much money for them. Like, when
yeah,
you look at a cancer patient's bill who has done chemotherapy or radiation, like, whew, those
yeah,
doctors are getting paid. But I saw this great documentary, and it was by Dr. Sanjay Gupta. He's a known doctor, but specifically on CNN, he's like their medical chief reporter, and he was always against weed. And
yep,
he started researching on the medicinal benefits of weed, and there's tons, but specifically what he found over in, I believe, Turkey and just in the Middle East, one of the things that they do for cancer patients, they have these rooms where, because some of them do certain types of radiation or chemotherapy, but afterwards,
okay,
what they do is they put them in these rooms that have like these helium balloons, and they inhale from the helium balloons,
yep,
and it's weed inside of them, and they recover so much better because of the medicinal benefits from the weed.
yeah,
So it's just like, like just really eye-opening that, we haven't really. I know when I lived in California, if you had a medical card, you could go, get weed for medical benefits, but a lot of people weren't doing it for medical benefits. But it would be nice to see our country get to that level where, especially cancer patients who are going through those extreme therapies or any type of illness where you're in such extreme pain, it'd be really nice to see them incorporate, medicinal herbs and different supplements into the practice.
yeah. Have you heard recently of the research that's going on in John Hopkins with psychedelics?
Yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
what do you think about that? I am blown away by that and super encouraging information. But I want to get your thoughts on that. Do you have any?
I think anything that comes from the ground, I think has medicinal purposes.
Yeah, yeah,
I've again, just from the research that I learned this summer from the course that I took and just reading books, like tomatoes, I think it's like 3 cups a week of tomatoes can help lower prostate cancer by like a certain 40%. And then broccoli, certain cruciferous vegetables can help different hormone driven cancers like uterine cancer, like breast cancer. It could lower it by, I think, 65%. So if vegetables can do that, why can't, other herbs from the ground?
yeah. Well, I think it's because what we kind of talked about in the healthcare industry, they haven't found a way to make a lot of money off of it.
Yep, and that's it. And once they do, just like alcohol, people used to bootleg alcohol.
True.
Like it's
It was
because
a crime.
it was because the government didn't have a way to make money off of it. And once they did, then they were like, okay, everybody could drink. So, and I see that, with weed having medical cards. Yeah, I think that's going to come along. And then the psychedelics, though, scare me. I will tell you that. But,
Tell me why, because I'm excited by them.
I think just my personality, like
Yep.
I personally, I can't do weed. I can't like edibles. Like I can have a little bit of alcohol, but it's just, I get very anxious, and it's just, so me personally, if I had something going on with me and I had to take a psychedelic, I'd probably jump off a roof or something. It wouldn't work.
Well, I agree. Yeah, I don't know how I would do on psychedelics. Now, I casually smoke weed, and I do it for the same reasons that the majority of the people do it. Well, I would like to think, and it's basically just to relax, just to take an edge off.
Mhm.
Sometimes I use it for deep work. It
Mhm.
really helps me out when I have to write certain things and
Yeah.
get into a zone.
I would
So
be interested in trying. I haven't tried the lotions
okay,
for
yeah.
pain. Like maybe that might work for me.
It might, yeah. I've tried edibles. I've tried the flower, which is just basically smoking it, and I've
Mhm.
tried the oils.
Mhm.
I think the oils are the most convenient. The flowers is the best, and the edibles are definitely for social. Like I'm just hanging out
Mhm.
with my friends, and I just wanna,
Mhm.
About the psychedelics, though, I have never tried psychedelics. I want to try them in a controlled environment so
Mhm.
that I don't have to jump off a roof like you.
Yeah. I watched this crazy
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
documentary, and it had people who were taking psychedelics for different things, and some of them, like, they had breakthrough with their, trauma,
Yeah.
PTSD, and then some of them would go crazy. And this one retreat, what they did, I think it's here in the U.S., they incorporated it as almost like a church. And they used the psychedelic almost like a communion. And that's how they
Oh.
were able to get away with it here in the US. And they were helping people, but a couple people ended up dying because they were tripping so much from it. So I don't know if they got shut down, but it was really interesting.
Yeah, it gets strange when it gets to like cult behavior stuff.
Yeah,
Like when they
that's what it
start
was like.
doing,
I was like, this is getting real.
yeah. But on the other hand, I've read a book by I forgot his name. It's something about that where he kind of makes the argument, and there's a lot of proof and a lot of evidence that the whole religion of Christianity was based off of this. I guess like you said, like a spiritual thing that they did
Mhm.
way before Christianity, and it was like drinking out of a potion is what they called it, but it was basically just a bunch of psychedelics,
Uh-huh.
and they will go out of body and they will go out of experience.
Uh-huh.
But
So
I don't want to get into that because I'm butchering that. But
So I went to school in Hawaii for a little while on exchange. I went to UH,
wow,
and
nice.
yeah, for a little bit of college. And I used to go to a church out there,
Okay.
and there's a lot of Mormon churches there, and that's because BYU is there. And there's a lot of Hawaiians and Tongans that are Mormons. And I'll never forget, I went to like a Mormon dance or something, and the Hawaiian kids that I hung out with, they were outside of the dance drinking some stuff, and I'm like, you guys are drinking alcohol? Like that's like you can't drink alcohol in the Mormon church. So that's like a no-no. And especially like before you go into a church dance, I'm like, you guys are crazy. Like, what are you doing? They were like, no, this is kava kava. This is a ritual. This is like, and they allowed it. Like,
Wow.
because in their culture, the Hawaiian culture, it was an herb and you drink it and it's supposed to, like, I don't know, calm you and
Yeah.
something spiritual. But that's what really like first opened my eyes to different like traditions and rituals, and how it can impact, their spirituality and their religion. And like,
Right.
that church out here doesn't do that. But because, they were Hawaiian and Tongans, they brought that practice into their religion. So it was really interesting.
It is interesting. It goes back very far. But yeah, I can see where if somebody were to take one of these, potions or these
Mhm.
concoctions, and they would go into they start seeing these things, and then
Mhm.
they document these things, and then these things get passed down over time, and it ends
Mhm.
up being these crazy stories of
And I'll never forget, I remember somebody telling me, they were like, that they didn't drink alcohol and they were, really religious. And I
yeah.
was like, but like Jesus drank wine. Why don't you drink alcohol? Oh, yeah, you know what I mean? And I remember him saying, why do you think they call alcohol spirits?
Yeah, interesting. I never heard of
And
that.
I was just like, oh, that's interesting. And too, like a lot of crimes are committed whether they're intoxicated.
Yeah.
whether
That's interesting.
it's drugs, physical drugs, or alcohol. Not saying all crimes, but a lot are.
Sure.
So it just really, I was like, and I'm not saying like I drink alcohol, but
Yeah.
it was interesting. I was like, so I think like, there's medicinal purposes that you can use those things for, but I think like you can also, become a drug addict or alcoholic. Like there's
Yeah.
a limit. Like, so being Dominican, we drink Mama Juana when you're sick.
Ooh. Burn your whole throat.
Exactly. But the thought process is that you're gonna numb yourself so you don't feel the pain of. No, but it's true. You don't feel.
I know. Us Spanish people are so weird when it comes to.
You don't feel the pain of whatever illness, and then you'll also burn the germ or whatever you got going on. But
Right.
when I was becoming a herbalist, one thing I learned is that a lot of medicines traditionally came from herbs. So aspirin comes from the willow bark of the willow tree, the bark of a willow tree. So
Really?
yeah. So now they put other chemicals in it. So I've learned that Native American chiefs back in the day, they would never ever move their tribes to areas that did not have this tree. And that's because the chief knew if any of his tribe got sick, he needed the bark of the tree to help with the pain.
Wow.
And help lower the temperature.
That is
And then,
super interesting.
yeah. And so a lot of medicines actually derive from. So the Mama Juana, like, basically today that's NyQuil.
True. That's
You
a
know
good
what I
point.
mean? It has
Yeah.
it's alcohol and it's syrupy. And that's what
Yeah.
that's a NyQuil. And
That's the best explanation for being an alcoholic I've ever heard, by the way.
and then too, have you ever heard of grounding?
No.
Okay, so research grounding, or on Netflix, there's a documentary. But there's a documentary for everything.
That's a rabbit hole.
But grounding is, so this one guy, it was a white guy. He grew up with this Native American tribe. I think his dad worked on the reservation or something. And he remembers this young girl getting scarlet fever, and they had to take her out of the village and go to a traditional, like, modern doctor because they thought she was going to die. And back then you could die. And
Yeah.
the doctor sent her back, to her tribe and was like, there's nothing we can do. So the chief said, dig a hole in the ground, and I want you to bury her up to her neck, keep her head out, but just bury her and leave her there overnight. So everybody stayed with her, watched her, made sure she was okay. And the guy who was, at the reservation kind of observing all this, he said the next day when they dug her up, she ran out and played and didn't have any issues.
Wow.
And that's when he realized the medicinal benefits of the ground. So think about it. If all these herbs, all these trees, all these vegetables and fruits are coming from the ground, and those are medicinal, there must be something medicinal in the soil, in the ground itself. So
Sure.
if people have a lot of inflammation or pain or certain types of illnesses, MS, they say that you should go out and get grounded. So when hippies hug a tree, and you think like it's crazy, they're really getting the benefits. They're being grounded. So even with electricity, so you have to ground electricity. You'll never see electricity, like a electric line outside, never not touch the ground. There's always a place that there's either, some place that it's going to go back into the ground, and it so could stop the current. So that's kind of what grounding does for inflammation in the body.
Wow. So So rewind a little bit. So it lowers the inflammation of the body from the medical benefits of the ground. Am I getting that correct?
Yes.
How does it do that?
So just what I was saying, that there.
Yeah, maybe I missed it. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So there's just like herbs are medicinal. Fruits and vegetables are medicinal,
Okay.
but where are they coming from?
From the ground. Okay. So you eating them is basically grounding you.
Yes, and you're
Wow.
getting the nutrients and all the properties from the soil. So it's the soil and the ground that
That's an
has
interesting point.
all the medicine.
Huh. I never thought about it. And excuse me for kind of having my thought cycle over here. That's what I'm
It's
just
okay.
thinking
Yeah,
about
I'm sure this is the
it.
first time
That's
you
kind of like
heard it.
mind blowing
So,
thought right there. I never thought about
and that's how I felt
it.
when I first started learning about this. I'm like, this is crazy. So this one guy, well, I'll tell you two stories. The one guy in the movie, what he did was he was in pain, so he took like because he worked for the electric company, and he would put the electric, you know, cords outside. He would put them up,
Yeah.
so he knew that they all had to be grounded. So he took a cord from outside, he stuck it in the ground, and then he put it through the bedroom window, and he tied it around his toe. And so whenever they're fixing the wires outside, they usually have like a little machine that they could look at, and it could tell you like how much electricity and how much, where it needs to be. So he
Yep.
had that, so he could see from the ground all this activity that was going into his body. So when he woke up in the morning, he had no pain.
Wow.
And I think he needed like a liver transplant. He needed something, and then he just kept on grounding, and then he was able to heal his liver.
He was good. Now, and you're go ahead. I'm sorry.
And then this one lady, she had a baby that was so colicky, and the baby just would never stop crying. And she realized the only time the baby would stop crying is when she was barefoot outside on the ground, like in the grass.
Wow.
So what they realized is that a lot of our own healing has been prevented from us wearing shoes. We weren't born with shoes, so we're losing that soil, that getting your feet on the ground connection. And that's why when you go to the beach and you walk on the sands and you're in the water, a lot of times you feel better.
Yeah.
It's because you're being grounded.
Wow. That is insane. I can make that same argument for why us humans adopting a house, having a house, has harmed us in a lot of ways too.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds kind of weird because it's like, oh, it keeps us warm, it keeps us protected. That's great, but it also keeps us not in the sun.
Yeah.
It also makes us wimps when it comes to cold weather and things like that. Things that our ancestors have been able to push over time. Here we are getting wimpy every time we step outside. So that grounding thing is incredible. I want to somehow circle this back to the supplements though, because I want you to tell me about the supplement line, and I want you to tell me how you use the supplements. So with
I'll circle it back.
I want to circle with, because the fact that you explained a lot of, what was that?
I said you can get grounded with the supplements because they literally are herbs from the ground.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Well, that's what I mean. Well, it would be impossible for us to have an all-encompassing diet where we can get all our vitamins and we could get all our nutrients. So I think that's where supplementation comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm very excited about in talking to you about supplementation, especially what your line is that you've been guinea pigging your line. Like you've actually, been trying these for over a year now. So can you explain to me a little bit more about the supplement line? What supplements do you have? How do you use them, and how they have benefited you?
So what I realize with myself and with clients is that sometimes when you're working out, doing all you can, you're in the gym, going hard, you're eating clean, and for some reason you're not seeing the results you want to see, it's because you're missing something. And that missing piece is supplementation. You have to treat your body as a whole. It's not just physical. And I know we talked a lot about that during this interview. So what I realized is that I have a lot of clients, and even myself, I struggled with constipation. I think
Okay.
over 70% of people in the US struggle with it. Now, if you are, not going to the bathroom as much as you should, and technically you're supposed to be going to the bathroom every time you eat, just like a baby. When a baby has a bottle, the baby goes to the bathroom, you got to change the diaper. But we have put so much junk into our system that we are not going to the bathroom every time we eat. People who are considered regular they go once a day, but that's not even truly regular. And the problem is that most people don't even go every day. They're going a couple times a week, every other day, or 3 or 4 times a week. So you cannot lose weight if you have buildup toxins in your system. And when you have buildup toxins in your system, you're also going to recirculate estrogen and extra hormones in your system. And then that leads to extra fat, and it's just, you're not going to lose the weight. So that's one supplement. And that supplement that I have is called Colonic in a Bottle. So I highly suggest, even if you are regular, starting at least 2 weeks with this, because most people carry around, I think it's 15 to 25 pounds of just extra
Wow.
poop in
Yeah,
your
that's
colon.
insane.
So I always say, even if you think you're regular, it's really good to start with this, because you really want to clean yourself out, not just to lose weight, but to get rid of the toxins. Because again, you start building up toxins, your health is going to start getting affected. Then I
Now, is that for both men and women?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
So all of
Okay.
these are for both men and women, even though
Okay.
some of them are pink and purple. I actually was thinking for some of my fat burners, and I was thinking I might have to do like a label of blue or something, so that way men don't feel embarrassed by
Gotcha. Well, men, speak up. Try the product and speak up.
So then I have another product that I like to package with colonic in a bottle, and it's
Okay.
called the Bye Bye Bloat. Bye Bye Bloat is basically a digestive enzyme. So colonic is, a cleaner, but it also is a probiotic.
Okay.
So it's going to clean you out. Then Bye Bye Bloat is a digestive enzyme. So a problem is that sometimes, like, you can even eat healthy and you're like, why am I not losing weight? Why am I gaining? Sometimes your body just can't break down the food, and sometimes you just don't have the right, you in your gut, you don't have the right microbes, you don't have the right, enzymes in order to break down the food. So Bye Bye Bloat helps you break down the food, so that way you can get rid of it through your digestive tract. But also, if you are eating foods and you're bloated, like a lot of times we are, we can't break down dairy, we're lactose intolerant. And a lot of times, you might not know it, but you might be gluten intolerant. And every time you eat carbs, you might bloat. So this is a good way, if you do eat those things, that you can break down your food properly.
Awesome. And they go together, right? Those two?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then I have 0 to 100, and that's basically a pre-workout. And I thought it was important to add a pre-workout into the line, because I feel like, you're a businessman, you work full time, you're a husband, you're a dad, you got a lot
Yeah.
going on. So to get to the gym and to have like a good workout, you need some energy, and some days you don't. And then also it has a little bit of caffeine in it, but it's a cleaner type of caffeine.
Okay.
And it has a bunch of vitamins in it too. Vitamin B1, B2, B3, B6, it has some B12. And then it also has like amino acids in it, so it's good for muscle recovery. So that way you kill it in the gym, but you're not being sore the next day. And then also, you don't, this is a clean type of workout where you're not going to get jittery, you're not going to feel the tingles, and you're not going to feel like, I don't know if you feel like insects crawling you when you take like
Oh
C4
yeah.
and certain workouts.
On the face. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very weird.
So I don't have any of that junk in here.
Nice.
So that you can also take, even if you just, you need to make it through the day at work. It's not going to keep you up at night. I do suggest you don't have it late at night, but it's not going to keep you
Yeah.
up at night.
But
And
it could be like a clean energy drink during the day.
yeah, yep, exactly.
Nice.
Then I
I
have
love that.
another supplement that you can pair together with this is Sleep Tight, because oftentimes I find people who don't have enough energy during the day, it's because they're not getting adequate sleep at night. And I tell people all the time when they say, I have to choose one. Should I just sleep in or work out? Like, I'm struggling. I can only do one. I honestly tell them sleep in. Sleep is so vital. Like,
Yeah.
that is when your body literally breaks down everything. That is when you lose weight. It's usually at night when you're sleeping. So you need sleep. And it's basically just like a melatonin, and it also has magnesium. A lot of us are magnesium deficient. And magnesium, it's kind of like it calms you down and it helps you get ready for sleep. And then the melatonin, something that we produce naturally. You can't overdose on it, but sometimes we don't produce enough when we affect our circadian rhythm. So when you're eating certain foods, if you're not eating certain foods, if you're, staying up late, you're going to affect your circadian rhythm, which also affects your melatonin production.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. And then my last two products, which are my favorites. It's Better Than Lipo and Liquid Lipo. And the reason why I named it that is because I have had so many clients come to me and they're like, I'm working out, I'm eating clean, forget this, I'm getting lipo. And I look at them and I say, one, do you know how much lipo is? Like,
Yeah.
there's an easier alternative, and not saying there's nothing wrong. Like some people, they've tried everything or they just want to get it, and maybe they have enough money, or they don't want to work
Sure.
for it, but, there are health risks that happen whenever you go under the knife for anything. I have a family member who personally died after complications of liposuction.
Oh
So
wow.
when you do it, like, there's a chance that, like anything, it's dangerous. And
It's
then,
surgery. Yeah.
and then on top of that, the average person, the most you lose doing liposuction is 15 pounds. 15 pounds. That's it. You're going to spend all that money, put yourself at risk for 15 pounds. Like, it's not really worth it. And
That's
then I've also
insane.
had clients too who, once you take out fat cells, for instance, I have one client, she came to me and she had liposuction before, and she showed me her arms. A lot of women get like the flabby arms, the triceps, that kind
Yep.
of jiggle.
Mm-hmm.
And so she got that sucked out. But once you remove body fat, not just the body fat, but in order to have body fat, it's almost like little circles. And when you get, when you gain weight, those fat deposits kind of blow up like balloons. But once you do liposuction and those fat deposits get removed, they never grow back in that area. They'll grow back in a different area. So when she came to me, she had skinny triceps, and then right near her elbows was like these big, like, fatty
Oh.
skin hanging.
Yep.
And I was like, what kind of doctor did you go to? And then she explained to me, and the doctor explained to her, like, your body, it has to do something with the fat. It's just not like, if you're eating crap and you're not, working out, like, it's going to go somewhere. And if it can't grow where it was growing before, it's going to find a new place to grow.
Interesting. Yeah.
So, just know that you can go get the liposuction, but, life happens. You gain, you lose. You don't keep it off forever, and you don't want it to grow in places that look crazy.
Definitely. And then you can't control those places either, so they could go
Exactly.
anywhere.
So the better than lipo, it's better than liposuction. Less risk, less money, and you're just, if you're putting in the work and you're doing this. This has Garcinia cambogia
Okay.
and a little bit of green coffee bean, a little bit of the natural caffeine that I was telling you about, the caffeine and
Yep.
hydrose. And what that does is that it helps speed up your metabolism in a natural way. And just in general, like certain types of like green coffee bean, like in green tea, they have some of it. And that's why a lot of Asians, they don't struggle with a lot of their weight. It's because they're constantly drinking green tea.
Yeah.
And that helps, boost your metabolism and burn calories. And then there's also raspberry ketone, and that's like the real secret. So, especially women after, they're in their 40s and 50s, your metabolism just slows way down, even in your 30s, to be honest. And
Yeah.
you lose muscle mass every 10 years. After 30, you lose a certain percentage of muscle mass. When you have more muscle, you have a faster metabolism. That's why men can usually lose weight much quicker than women, is because pound for pound, they have more muscle. Every pound of muscle, you burn so many more calories. So this
Okay.
raspberry ketone is going to help you burn more calories. And then hopefully you can start packing on more muscle to keep your metabolism up.
Wow. Okay.
And then I have liquid lipo. This is the
Yep.
last one. This one I love because it's a tincture, so it comes in like a dropper form. And this one has African mango extract. And I love this because it literally comes from, Africa. And it's literally this fruit that we don't have here. And in that fruit, there's an enzyme that helps you. It acts almost like an appetite suppressant. And I think that's what makes it so hard sticking to a nutrition plan and a workout routine. When you work out, you become more hungry.
Yeah.
You're going to want to eat. And then already, if you are insulin resistant or you're used to eating tons of sugar, your I'm trying to think of the name of it. The signals in your brain
Okay.
are going to say eat, even when you're not hungry.
Sure.
So it's almost like, you're trying to put in the work, but you can't control your appetite. So this right here helps you suppress your appetite because you're really not hungry. It's just all the chemicals that you put into your body and then extra working out, you're just going to feel like you're more hungry. But this suppresses that. You could put it in your morning smoothie. You could put it in your coffee. You could take the drops by themselves, but I prefer not to. It doesn't really have a taste, but it just tastes better when you put it in something. So those two together are awesome.
Gotcha. So that's an all-encompassing line right there of products. Now you've been taking these for about a year, a little over a year.
Yeah, like some of them a little less, just because I was able to put the products together later,
Okay.
and then I took some stuff out in it, and I was like, okay, let's add this in, which it was so fun. It was really exciting to have that creative process and in making these. But again, it's going to work on the stomach, it's going to work on your energy, it's going to work on your sleep, it's going to work on even the chemicals in your brain to calm the appetite suppressant. It's gonna work on boosting your metabolism. So all those things,
Yeah.
you need to, have working in your favor in order to lose weight. So if all those things are going cray cray and you're working out and you're eating good, you're not going to see results. But if you have that missing piece, if you take the full line, you're going to notice like, oh, I don't have to work out twice a day. Because I don't have to kill myself because my body is working in unison.
Wow. Okay. So you have the research behind it, you have the usage behind it because it's literally helped you transform your life.
Hmm.
Now you're reaching out with the combination of those things and trying to educate people on it.
Yeah,
So
I feel like that was
fit with Fallon.
yeah,
Go
so
ahead.
I
I'm
feel
sorry.
like that was the missing link. I really want to educate people, and I think that's one of the reasons why I started my podcast too.
Yeah.
I'm interviewing different doctors, people in the medical field. Tomorrow, I'm interviewing an acupuncturist and Reiki healer, and it just there's so many facets to it, and I really, really want to help people take their health in their own hands. And even on the podcast, I'm going to start doing a lot of, education with supplements, with food, and just with, your health in general. I just feel like a lot of people will see, this is the new supplement to take, CMOS, let me just take it. But why are you taking it? Is it going to be beneficial for you? If you're experiencing certain symptoms, like we were saying earlier, certain medications causes certain, reactions or can have certain effects. So is there an alternative? For instance, if you have anxiety and say you don't want to take your anxiety pills because it gives you insomnia or it gives you depression, St. John's wort is a great herbal remedy along with magnesium, which is calming. Those two together don't have side effects and they're cheaper and they're natural. So eventually I want this line. I want to start off with more fitness just because I think that's something we all want. We all want quick results. So I
Yeah.
figured, let me introduce this, gain the trust of my audience. And a lot of people come to me for fitness and weight loss. So I felt like this would be beneficial. But eventually, I want to start introducing some of the other products that I've researched and learned, and even other supplements that I take that I want to make myself. So, for instance, every day I take a product called DIM, and it has I3C in it, which these are all herbs, but it helps lower your estrogen levels and it helps you, clear them out of your system. And, being that I had issues with too much hormones, this is a great way to help. And if you're having menstrual issues for women, or you're going through menopause, or just, struggling with your hormones to lose weight, DIM and I3C would be a perfect product. So hopefully later on I can introduce that to the line and many other things.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, how is podcasting? How have you found podcasting to be a good education ground for what you have to say?
Well, I think, just to hand somebody a pill
Yep.
and, let them go, I feel like is a disservice. You know how there's the saying, you can give a horse water, but if you, what is it? If you, you
Yeah.
can
You could give it. I know what you mean. It's sort of like the
if you teach a man how to get the water, like he'll never run out of water for life. Like,
yeah, I think it's a fish. Give a man a fish and he'll eat. Teach a man to fish and he'll never
yeah,
starve. Something
like,
like that.
I need to look up analogies. I'm bad at them, but
There's a lot of those that are like that, though. I don't blame you.
but that being said, it's like I don't want to just I don't want to do what the medical system is doing. You're going into the doctor's office, you're getting a pill, and you're going, and that's it.
Right.
I want to give you something and educate you why you're taking this, what it does, and how it can help you. Because the more we educate ourselves, the more we can take back control. And then hopefully we can see less issues. Because especially if you start when you don't have a lot of issues, you start taking care of your body. Like I was saying, your body is a temple, it's a Ferrari,
Yeah.
you won't have major issues down the road, hopefully go on, because you've been doing all the preventative things. And that's what taking care of your body on, a fundamental level, getting the basic nutrients you need, vitamins you need, exercise you need, nutrition you need, that is going to boost your immune system so that way you don't get other illnesses and diseases, just like COVID. If you are taking care of your immune system and you're working out and you're eating good and you're taking your supplements, you could get COVID, but it's probably not going to affect you as bad as somebody who has comorbidities. It's the same thing with other areas of health. As long as you're taking care of yourself, because think about it, our immune system is built to fight off things.
Yeah.
So, if we're constantly introducing antibiotics, you're going to start to get antibiotic resistance and you're not going to be able to naturally fight off things. So you got to build up your immune system first before it gets to that level.
Okay. And that strength, this is more of a current event thing. How do you feel about the upcoming COVID vaccine?
I really have mixed feelings about it. I think because, my mom is immunocompromised, and I know, I really didn't get the flu shot before.
Yep.
But once my mom got on the list, they said, any family that's going to be around her, and I was her caretaker when she got her lung transplant, had to have a flu shot. And even certain things, like if you work in the hospital, certain things like that, you have to have a flu shot. And
Right.
I feel like, and I used to train this doctor, and I used to talk to her about vaccinations and different things. And, there's a lot of people who feel that vaccinations are harmful because there's a lot of toxins in vaccinations.
Yeah.
However, I remember her looking at me and telling me, you didn't grow up in the era that I grew up. You didn't see all the deaths that scarlet fever caused, or,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that we are so lucky that I grew up in this part of my life, this
Yes.
era where we didn't experience, like my uncle, he's deaf. He wasn't born deaf, but he got Rumbella. I don't know. He got something when
Yeah.
he was little.
I think I've heard of that. Yep.
Yeah, he got something when he was little, and now he's deaf, and they didn't have a vaccination then. So, and there was a lot of kids that were getting, or even dying from little things. So even though I'm totally into boosting your immune system and to naturally, if you can, and taking herbs and supplements, I try not to disqualify all of the technology and advancement that we have in medicine.
Yeah.
Because I think there is a need, just kind of like I was saying earlier, if you get hit by a car and, you need surgery and morphine, like I feel like herbs are not going to help with that. How do you feel about it? You work in the hospital.
Yeah, I'm kind of cornered in a situation where that's my livelihood. So I didn't get the flu shot before this year.
Mm-hmm.
And that what the hospital would tell me is it's as long as you wear a mask during flu season, it's okay. You don't need to get the flu shot.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that for the past 4 or 5 years. And then this year, even though we all have to wear a mask, which is a little strange, they made it 100% mandatory. You have to get it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was against it for a little bit. And then I had my friend, Katasha, who's an IV therapist. She was on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And she's basically, she basically explained to me the whole thought process of like, well, listen, if you get the flu and you get COVID on top of the flu, you're doubly fucked.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is what she was explaining to me. And, the whole process of like, if you inject yourself with a lighter strain of it, you'll build the antibodies for the flu and then you won't get sick. So I'm all with that. However, this thing, from them telling us 6 months ago or so that it would take 4 to 5 years to get an actual vaccine, to then by the end of the year say, hey, it's about to be out. And then knowing that I'm probably going to be first in line being a healthcare worker to get this thing.
It's kind of scary because you want to see what it does first before you get it.
But they won't let me unless I quit my job. So they haven't said anything yet. The hospital hasn't said anything yet, but I mean, at 2 + 2 = 4. I'm pretty sure they're going to say, hey, you guys have to get this. Now, back to our whole conversation that we've been having here.
Mhm.
The only thing that has given me comfort in this situation is that I supplement daily as well.
Yeah.
I work out daily. I take care of my body for the most part as much as I can. My diet could be better, but I still do the best I can.
Mhm.
And what I'm thinking is, well, shit, if they're going to put some shit in my body, I'm probably
You're going to be
one of,
better off than.
yeah, I'm probably one of the better off people than everybody else that's around me.
Exactly.
So that's how I feel about it. But I'm definitely in the crossfire, right? Like, it's
Yeah,
like
it's like, it's hard. I
very
don't want to
strange.
be ignorant and say all vaccines are bad, and because
Yeah.
maybe one day I'm gonna need a vaccine that's gonna save my life.
Yeah, well, I agree with you that we live in the safest time in history.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it doesn't feel that way when we jump on social media, and I know it looks like it's crazy, but yeah, there was sicknesses and different situations that were wiping people out left and right before vaccines and stuff.
Mhm.
So I'm just gonna take my chances with it, but I hate to say that I don't care because COVID. I've been one of those individuals that COVID hasn't really affected me one
Yeah.
bit.
Mhm.
And then when I say that to people, I feel very selfish for the people that are affected.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and
I had a trainer.
mhm.
I used to manage her because I used to work in the gyms as a manager, and her husband just died of coronavirus. And
Yeah, and I
I'm
can't
just like,
discredit that.
yeah, it's just, I think again, we're fortunate because we're healthy that
Yeah,
it
absolutely.
hasn't affected us. But
Well, to me, it's gotten to the point where what I tell people now is it's strange how people prioritize the way they think they're gonna die. Because if you're very realistic about the situation, you got to understand that death is literally at arm's length at all times.
yeah.
There's no. I mean, I could get the flu and die. I could go outside right now, get smacked by a car.
Mhm.
I could, anything can happen at any point in time. But for some reason, because it's in our face all day, I have to, for some reason, now put coronavirus as number one. When in my mind, there's a bunch of shit that's at number one because I can
Yeah.
die in a lot of different ways right away.
Hmm.
So yes, I'm worried about Corona. Yes, I do. I'm not one of those that is stupid enough to think it doesn't exist. I
Hmm.
do think that this thing is real. But what I try to tell people is that I can't be any more scared of Corona than I am of dying for something else.
Well, yeah, because I feel like whenever you live in fear, I feel like it paralyzes you. And I feel like
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
why, we're sitting here talking about how important it is to take care of yourself and boost your immune system because that's what's going to help protect you.
absolutely. And it's up to us at the end of the day. So I'm gonna leave you with a case scenario,
Okay.
and you tell me what you would tell this person. So I am male or female, you pick. I'm overweight.
Hmm.
My doctor has me on high blood pressure medication. And the only information that I have about getting fit is my Facebook feed. What would you tell that person?
Um, I would say I would love to coach you. Here's my prices. No, I'm kidding.
I love that answer.
I always ask for a health history. That's like the first thing I ask is, I want to know what's your history. Were you athletic? Were you not? Did you recently gain weight? Like, do you have any other health issues? What health issues run in your family? What type of job do you have? Are you sitting down all day? Are you active? How many steps are you getting a day? Tell me what you ate for breakfast, lunch, and dinner today, and snacks. What do you drink every day? Um, yeah, then from there, I would say, you said you have high blood pressure.
Yeah, the person has high blood
Okay, and
pressure.
the
They want to
doctor
get
wants.
off of that
Oh,
stuff.
they want to get off. Okay, so if you want.
Well, they're stuck in the healthcare system.
Okay. So I would say, if you're on medication first, you don't want to just jump off, especially if you don't consult with your doctor.
Mhm.
But I can, of course, help you, see great results so you can get off. But I would say the first thing you need to do is look at your nutrition. That is like key. It's great
Okay.
to work out, but if you're eating crap, you're gonna, your health is gonna show that it's crappy. So I would start with the nutrition and, incorporating more vegetables, more fruits. If you're drinking soda and you're drinking sweet tea, and that's got to go. Like you're not going to, that's like the number one thing too. Like it's done. Like you gotta,
Yeah.
you're drinking diabetes in a bottle. Once in a while I see, but if you're having some issues, that's got to go. And then, two, I think stress is really important. I like to see like how stressful your life is and ways to minimize it. And for some, just people just exercising or walking every day. And then I would ask, what symptoms do you have? Because then I'll also know, okay, what vitamins and nutrients this person needs.
Okay.
Everybody should be taking a multivitamin. Like that is like
For sure.
a non-negotiable multivitamin. That way you cover all your bases. And if
Yep.
you are planning to get pregnant or you want to get pregnant, you should be on a prenatal multivitamin, just because you need so much folate when you become pregnant. And women who don't supplement prior, they have a higher chance of having babies with spinal bifida, which, you don't want those problems. So,
Complications. Yeah.
yeah. So I say start with a multivitamin. And then I ask too, like, what are your energy levels? How good are you sleeping? Because then I know, like, okay, we need some vitamin B12. Maybe they need some pre-workout, need some magnesium, some, melatonin, and then I will also offer my supplements,
Yeah.
or even, other supplements. I always tell people, if you're going to supplement and you don't trust the products or the person selling them, definitely look on reviews. Like,
Definitely.
see what other people are saying about them, and then try them and see how your body reacts. And if it's not a good reaction, stop. That's not the supplement for you. And
Okay.
then what else? I'm trying to think. I also say too, like, you want to be working out at least, if you've been like sedentary, not working out at all, you need to be, up and moving at least 3 times a week minimum. I want you to get it up to 4 or 5 times a week. And if you're over 30, you need to be strength training minimum twice a week. Like I said earlier, you lose muscle mass after 30 every so many years. So when you have enough muscle, you speed up your metabolism, but especially for women, you will prevent getting osteoporosis. You need enough muscle surrounding the bones to protect the bones. So traditionally, people thought, like, I need to drink a lot of milk. Dairy is how you get your calcium. But, with the strength training, you could supplement with a pill. But dairy actually has been shown, women who drink the most dairy have more hip fractures. And that's because
It's an interesting stat.
yeah, they have more hip fractures and more osteoporosis. And that's because dairy, you have to pasteurize it. Do you know what happens when you pasteurize anything?
No, I don't. I don't know the process of
So you
pasteurizing.
have to like boil it to a high degree. So you're killing everything in it, because natural dairy, like just straight out the cow, has so much bacteria in it. You can, get sick. So they have
Yeah.
to make sure everything is gone. So you're stripping all the nutrients and vitamins from it. So what they're doing is they're just fortifying it. They're just
Yeah.
putting calcium into it. So yeah, you just got fake calcium into it, but you're still drinking dairy, which has a bunch of hormones, has a bunch of, other things. So it's like, you might as well just take a pill.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
eat oranges. Yeah, there's, you want to try to get it from healthier food sources, but in order to like make sure you're getting adequate supplementation, you should be taking a vitamin C.
Yeah, without the calories too, right? Because you want to get enough supplementation without having to pack on all the calories and the carbs that you would need.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could imagine in a full dose multivitamin, you get your vitamin C, but how many freaking oranges it would take for you to get that dosage of vitamin C?
Yeah. But I will say
Yeah,
this, when you are eating vegetables and fruits, you're also getting fiber. And fiber is so important. Earlier, I was saying, a lot of people ask about where are you getting your protein when it should be, where are you getting your fiber? We are fiber deficient. I was speaking with a doctor, and he was like, he's a vegan. And he was like, people always ask me, where do you get your protein? You're not getting protein. And his response was, I've never taken care of anybody in a hospital that was protein deficient.
Wow.
When have you gone to the hospital and visited somebody because they were protein deficient?
Never, I would think.
So fiber, when you're not getting enough fiber, you're not going to eliminate, and you're going to have a bunch of gastrointestinal issues. And like I was saying earlier, this country has so much digestive and gastrointestinal issues, and that's why colon cancer, stomach cancer is on the rise, is because all those years of not being able to clean out your system, toxins accrue, and then other issues and diseases. So
yeah, I work in an OR, and I would tell you that the majority of the cases that I see daily are endoscopy cases, for sure.
Really?
Yeah, especially as of late, so much as of late that I've had to add, they're called pods, right, where they're rooms, but I've had to add 3 new carts of endo inventory because of all the cases that we're picking up.
Wow, that is I knew it was bad, but I guess, it's getting even worse.
At least here in Worcester it is. But all right, so we could do this forever, literally. But where I appreciate it. But where could anybody who's interested in anything Fallon related and all this great information and research that you've done and the supplements, let them know where to go?
Yeah, you can go to fitwithfallon.com. There you can have access to my pre-orders. If you want to order the supplements, I can put you on the pre-order list. If you want to become a client and you want to do health coaching, I do it over the phone. If you just want a consultation, you just want to ask questions, if you want to keep up with me, listen to my podcast, you can go to iTunes or any platform that you listen to podcasts on, or even my YouTube, fitwithfallon.tv. And then on Instagram at fit_with_Fallon, or just put fit with Fallon. I should pop up. You can follow me there. I'm the most active on Instagram. I'm trying to become more active on Twitter and Facebook, but yeah, I'm so excited to just help people on another level. Before it was, let me show you these workout moves, Yeah. And now it's like, no, let me really help you. Let me help you live a healthier, longer life,
Yeah, the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fallon, I appreciate you as always. I'm always inspired by the fact that you not only, take action on what you preach, but you research everything and you're willing to try it on yourself before you try it on other people. And a world full of charlatans and a bunch of people trying to take advantage and manipulate people, you are rare and you are needed, especially with the healthcare system. The healthcare system's falling apart, and we need people to get this information.
And
Thank you.
My ultimate goal is I want to return to Worcester, and I really even past the supplements. I really want to help people on another level. I want to open up a juice bar and an IV clinic and start putting together government programs, teaching people how to eat, letting them get access to foods that, in certain areas we don't have access to. So yeah, I think it's going to be much bigger than just the supplements.
Awesome. And I'm rooting for you every step of the way. That IV clinic thing sounds super interesting. I would definitely give that a shot. But talk to you soon. Thank you so much for coming back for a round 2.
Yeah, this was awesome. Anytime.
Yeah. All right, Fallon. Later.
Okay, take care.
Another great conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys see that fitness is not just something that, there's a certain way to do it for every single person. It's different for everybody. You should understand your body from a nutritional level, and you should understand it from a physical level, and you should go at your own pace as long as you have a pace and you're just not ignoring your health. As always, guys, I appreciate y'all. Please rate, share, and subscribe this episode. That's how I continue to have the conversations I want to have, and you can continue to have the conversations that you love to listen to. As always, guys, take care.